Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site to let you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. A little bit more so this week than usual. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering to discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions of the thing. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, in person, right next to me, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, Trevor?
What is going on? So this is our first adventure trying to do something basically in our new workspace. We spent the last couple hours trying to figure out something where we could just record in our computers across from one another that did not work. So we're doing this. We're basically sitting well far back from the camera so that we could still be in frame. And we have a singular microphone that will hopefully pick us both up throughout the episode. And today we're going to be talking all about Strange World, which we sat down and watched also together in the house a couple days ago. So in diving into the why did we pick it, I wanted to do this one largely because it was an anomaly. It was basically sent out to die by Disney at Thanksgiving. Obviously, Black Panther Wakanda Forever was like the real marquee thing that Disney had really put all their marketing stuff behind, and there was like zero marketing behind Strange World here. And I guess like now watching it, it's like I get that it would be a hard thing to market because it is much more of an out there kind of product. But still, it was just like, oh, they didn't really care about this one at all. So very weird to be like in this kind of framework of Disney coming out of the pandemic and stuff. Like, I don't know why this wasn't just a direct Disney Plus if that was how they were going to treat this, but so be it. So yeah, this was it's now available on Disney Plus. It came out basically a month after release onto Disney Plus, much like Encanto did last year. But Encanto picked up like crazy buzz because of the music and everything for it. This did no such thing. A little bit of the history here. Originally released November 23rd, 2022, has a runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes. In the Walt Disney Animated Studios timeline of things, we had Raya and the Last Dragon back in March of 2021, March 5th, Encanto in this slot last year, November 24th, 2021. Strange World, November 23rd, 2022, and next year's Sacrificial Lamb, Wish, is in this slot for November 22nd, 2023.
Is it just me, or is there now just a weird, like, there must be a sacrifice? Like, is this like the Disney Plus, like, sacrificial, like, lamb we get annually now?
It is definitely odd. Like, I mean, if you look at, like, the calendar here in 2023, across all of Disney's properties, there's, like, 30 different movies coming out. And they definitely clearly put like their real marquee efforts behind like the Marvels or when they do a Star Wars or something like that. Obviously, Avatar is now a Disney thing under the Fox umbrella. Like they're making plenty of money. But yes, as far as these like animated things go, they have, a Pixar movie a year and a Disney movie a year, it seems. And the Disney, like, I guess I get the rationale of put it out there Thanksgiving weekend. That's a great movie or a great time for families to go see movies. But they just haven't really been pushing them as much. Like Encanto had a decent push, but it was also still drowned out by a whole bunch of other stuff. Least of all was, coming out of the pandemic last year or 2021. And so, yeah, this one it was just, they just didn't put it, like they didn't have any faith in it. Even we were watching the movie and we got 20 minutes into the movie before they really like lean into like, oh, here's what they were showing off in the trailers. Because it was like this doesn't look like the movie that the trailers indicated at all for the first good chunk of the movie.
Not at all. I was so flabbergasted. I was like, what movie is this? Because I know these character models are probably the same character models from the trailer, but like, what are these? These are so weird.
Yeah. So we'll dive into that in a little bit. But diving into the roll call, our who's who of the film, our director here, we have a duo directorial team. Don Hall is the primary director here, who previously directed Winnie the Pooh in 2011, as well as Disney films Big Hero 6, Moana, and Raya and the Last Dragon. And Ki Gayen is the co-director here. This is their directorial debut. They're also the writer. They did the screenplay of it, and they had also written on Raya and the Last Dragon. We have our cast. The first one at the gate here, we watched the entire movie and you didn't realize this who this was.
It makes sense, though.
Jake Gyllenhaal is kind of our lead in the role of Searcher Clade. Jake Gyllenhaal, of course, in many a thing, going back all the way to City Slickers, but probably best known for his breakouts in Donnie Darko, Bubble Boy, which is one I just always want to give a shout out to because I remember watching that a ton on Comedy Central growing up.
It's a classic.
Then he would really hit a different stratosphere with Brokeback Mountain. Mm-hmm. In the Disney verse, he was in Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
That was a movie that came out.
It was a movie that came out, and it is a movie that would have a very different cast if it came out today.
Fun note, based on that original cast, he's the closest thing they even have to a Persian in that film.
Yep. Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal was also in Nightcrawler, and more recently he was in Spider-Man: Far From Home as, of course, Mysterio. Dennis Quaid as Jaeger Clade, the father or the grandfather character. Yep, it was Dennis Quaid.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Yep, Dennis Quaid in a theme was also in the film Inner Space. That was one of his earlier breakout roles. He was also in Frequency and The Rookie and Far From Heaven, and he this is his second time playing Jake Gyllenhaal's father after The Day After Tomorrow, which was another movie that both of them were in as a father and son duo. Jabuki Young White plays Ethan Clade. He was previously in Ralph Breaks the Internet. He was in the Baymax series that I believe you joined me for a little while back. He was the guy who got the fish allergy.
Yes, okay, so I recognize his voice. Okay.
Yeah. He's also can be seen in Only Murders in the Building these days. Gabrielle Union playing Meridian Clade, going back to things like 10 Things I Hate About You and Bring It On. She was also in Bad Boys, and she was in the Cheaper by the Dozen remake last year with Zach Braff.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Lucy Liu as Callisto Mall. She's going back into things like Shanghai Noon, as well as Charlie's Angels. Of course, she had a long stint on the show Ally McBeal. She was in the film Kill Bill, and she's been, I don't know if the show's still on, I guess, but she's Watson in The Elementary procedural on, I presume, CBS.
It was CBS, you're right.
Karan Soni plays Caspian, probably recognizable as Dopinder from the Deadpool films. He's the guy in the glasses on the ship who is supposed to babysit Ethan at some point and loses him. And then Alan Tudyk, stalwart Disney voice performer these days, pulls triple duty as the narrator, the radio host one, and Duffy, the original pilot that gets sucked out of the film.
After first getting stabbed through the chest by the tongue.
Yep. Of course, Alan Tudyk going... I always remember him from A Knight's Tale, because that's one of the first things I remember seeing him in. Of course, he was also in Firefly / Serenity, Dodgeball, iRobot, and then a ton of voice stuff, including K2SO in Rogue One, and Clayface and the Joker in the Harley Quinn series, and he's been a mainstay of recent Disney films, usually in the role of animal of some kind. I was surprised he's not also the voice of Splat in this, for example. Some trivia to dive into. The font style of the film's title is inspired by the Indiana Jones franchise, or as Cameron pointed out, DuckTales, because DuckTales, of course, is also inspired by Indiana Jones. As I alluded to earlier, Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal previously played father and son in The Day After Tomorrow in 2004. The world existing on the back of a turtle, spoilers, is an ancient concept and mythological belief that existed in both American and Asian cultures. Alan Tudyk's character Duffy dies in an almost identical manner as his character Wash from Serenity. Spoilers for that film. And this was the first Disney animated film to receive a B grade on CinemaScore from audiences, which is the lowest for any animated Disney feature. Now, CinemaScore, not necessarily like a ranking of quality so much as it is most commonly it gauges like what audiences were expecting versus what they got. Mm-hmm. So the fact that like they got a B, they were expecting a very different movie based on the marketing.
Which is exactly how we felt.
Yeah.
So it correlates perfectly.
One last little bit of trivia that I pulled in that I did not put in here. The game within the movie, Primal Outpost, apparently has, like, real rule set, has more cards than what we see. It is a fully playable game that the movie creators came up with. And maybe it will be released someday. Though based on the response of the movie, probably not. If you do find a copy of Primal Outpost, it's probably going to be some kind of crazy collectible someday. So yeah, what did we think, Cameron? I'll throw it to you. What did you think of Strange World?
Here's my thing. I think I totally agree with that cinema score, with it just not matching the expectations I had for the movie. This movie is not bad at all. Like, it's a pretty good movie. Like, I would even rank it up. I wouldn't say it's one of the greats, like Disney animated greats, but it's certainly better than like other stuff they've put out.
Yeah, you were laughing very boisterously throughout the movie.
Yeah, it's funny, it's slapsticky, it has great heart and great humor to it. I think it fills that classic Disney Pixar, or Disney animation formula to it that I think is just absolutely spectacular on several levels. I think this is one of those that people will... I don't think this is going to be like... I think a lot of people were hoping this would be like an Encanto, where, yeah, it was sent out, didn't do too well in theaters, but it picked up on Disney Plus and people fell in love with it. And, but that was, like you pointed out, was mostly because of the music. So I do think this is going to be one of those things where... This might be one of those movies where people will pick up on it later. Mm-hmm. Kids who grow up watching it as like the newest Disney Plus thing, I think that could be a big game changer for it in the future. But this is one that I don't think we'll be seeing too much more of in the near future.
Yeah.
Overall, I think that it has several spectacular scenes in it. It has one of the, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, certainly not the first, but it certainly was a great, like, I'll just put it out there. It was just great seeing the level of representation and support Ethan got as a gay character. Mm-hmm. Just straightforward. Just, this is like, there's on absolutely no level, at no point was anything made about his romance other than it was considered typical and normal.
Yeah. Which
is just like something that has been fumbled a lot in the past. Mm-hmm. Where people are trying to be progressive and they're trying to be like, hey, point this out, but then they make it a driving plot point. And Disney, I think, has done an excellent job of seamlessly pushing and like, not pushing, but not having difficulty inserting non-hetero romances on just about every level that they've done it, whether it's with this, whether it's with Baymax. Like, there's just been some very great moments of just like consistent, not just acceptance or tolerance, but normalization of non-hetero romances, which is something that I really loved right off the bat. It's just like, it's just so good. Ethan's such a great character. Overall, like, I think the characters are great. I think the world is really interesting. I think the reveal of the giant turtle was fun, because it reminds me of Terry Pratchett books.
Okay.
Not Terry Pratchett. I'm thinking, shoot, is it Erdworld? I'm trying to remember what it is. I had it a minute ago when you brought up the turtle thing, but I can't remember. But basically, it's another fantasy book series about a world on a turtle's back. Although I believe that turtle is sitting on top of an elephant. That is in specifically, I believe that's in. Anyway, I won't get into it because I can't really remember, and let's not like postulate or like half ass this. So let's go ahead and whole ass this by saying it's great. I had a really great time with it. I think as a film, it's great. I don't think it's up there with the Disney greats. But overall, like, I really found myself really liking it. They make a really fun lampshade to there not being like a really big bad villain. Mm-hmm. In Primal Outpost, it's specifically because it's like, there's no bad guy. What do you mean there's no bad guy? Like,
I mean, yeah, it like that scene itself was very much like, oh, like they're using this scene to basically just lay out the movie, like the thematic elements of the film. Yeah, to your point with Ethan's character, there was definitely that moment where Jaeger is out there on the bow of the ship, and he said, like, he's talking to Ethan about, like, so you got a sweetheart back home or whatever, and Ethan starts talking about this guy that he has a crush on, kind of thing. And I was half expecting, like, the old, grizzled, adventurer character to be like, oh, okay, and have, like, some kind of tension there. And the fact that, like, he just fully embraced him, it was like, well, that's great. I'm so glad to hear you found somebody and whatnot. It was like, oh, okay, good job.
And like, and no weirdness about it whatsoever. Just oh, hey, you know what? Having somebody's special. And then that leads us to the great introduction of, oh, shoot, what was his name?
Was it Spencer is the other guy? No,
it wasn't Spencer. It was something with an S name, but it was funny because it was just like, who's that?
Is this the Penelope's
new
guy?
Yeah, Penelope's new guy.
Yeah, the mom's new husband or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they're in the credits because I don't think they have a name or anything. But yeah.
Nope. But I just thought that was great. I love that aspect of it. Like, once again, it's just super seamless, super just like, we're not even like. Guess what, people? Gay stuff isn't a big deal anymore. It just isn't. It's normal.
Yeah.
And it's like that incorporation of it was just fantastic to have.
Yeah. The concern I remember coming out kind of following the just abysmal like release and reception to the movie was like there was definitely an audience that was saying like they didn't put any marketing money behind it, and now Bean Counter is going to say, well, this is why we have to have, heteronormative romances, otherwise the movie won't sell. It's like, no, that's not a correlation kind of thing.
Ethan's romance isn't in any of the marketing materials.
Yeah.
Because that would lead you to understand, because most of his scenes outside of the ending is them interacting in the quote unquote regular world.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, like, the romance it's cool. It's a cool aspect of the character, but it's also like such a non-element to the story. It's like it's in that beginning part where we're like, is this just a different movie than what was sold? And then like there's that conversation that happens on the ship, and then there's like the end scene. So to a degree, it does still feel a little like, well, they could probably edit those beats out and make the movie 5 minutes shorter if they really wanted to try and play for less tolerant audiences.
Well, fuck those people.
Exactly. But that like my frustration is that's probably a conscious choice that Disney made to be able to do that, which is still disappointing. It's certainly better and more than we've had in the past, but it is still like, well, that's sad. But yeah, overall, like so much of the story, and I think like from the trailer that I watched maybe like once or twice prior to seeing the movie, I was very much expecting like they're adventurers going off into space or something. Like I was expecting a Lost in Space type story.
Yep.
And it's very much a Lost in Space type story, but it's more Lost Inner Space of like it is a journey to the center of the earth kind of story. And so like, and that doesn't really pick up until 25 minutes into the movie or something like that. And that was what like when they kind of dive into that little crevice kind of thing and come out the other end, and we start seeing like all the bright colors and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's the movie that like they were marketing. So it's weird that you have such a long setup to get there.
That isn't in any of the promotional material.
Yeah, it isn't in any of the promotional material. Like the whole prologue of like, X number of years ago with Jaeger trying to like get over the mountain and taking his young boy searcher with him. Like that was all set up that felt like probably more than it needed to be, longer than it needed to be. Like they could have, I think, benefited from really getting to the meat and potatoes of the movie sooner.
I slightly disagree with that. I do like I didn't have an issue with the pacing, but I think, if you want to match it with the marketing materials, that's definitely what you should have done.
Yeah.
But I think that they should have marketed it much more, because like that's the thing, we all felt like, oh, this is like a space movie, like sci-fi movie, and it's like, no, this is like old school, like it's sci-fi, but it's old school sci-fi, Journey to the Center of the Earth. It has like flavors and tones of like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, in regards to like the ship stuff. And I'm like, there's so many really cool things going on in this movie that you would never expect from the trailer. and it's super disappointing to see. And it was super disappointing to kind of like go in expecting something that wasn't this, because I think that a lot of like the whiplash of that kind of lasted for a lot longer than it should have.
Mm-hmm.
And did leave a bad taste in my mouth. I still like the movie. But that's really just my thoughts on it. I don't have like much more when it comes to thoughts on like the actual like overall of the film.
Yeah, it was very much like this like once we got to that point and it kind of revealed itself like, oh yeah, it is a Lost in Space type. It's a family. They're kind of out there. The grandfather character has been there for 25 years and has just been trapped down there. And it gets reunited with the family. Like it very much is a throwback to the 40s and 50s in terms of like the pulpy kind of action stuff. And then, the 60s and 70s in terms of like the sci-fi TV Lost in Space type stuff. And so, yeah, it was very like once we got there and could just kind of enjoy the crazy things they were throwing up on the screen, it was like a cool psychedelic, vibe to it. And like the fact that like all of these things don't have faces and stuff like that, it is like, oh, okay, like this is all a very alien kind of like situation that we're in that like does tie in nicely later on when we just start to discover like, oh, they are like very much just like the inner workings of this creature. So that's why they don't have faces, because they're basically mitochondria and stuff like that.
Shout out though, and also not a positive shout out, a negative shout out to those one like four-legged beast, like furry beast dudes who had like the billion tongues.
Yeah, you hated those.
I hated them so much.
Yeah.
Just they creeped me the fuck out. They're only in like 3 scenes, but they creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah, like you saw them as tongues. I saw them more as like capillaries or whatever, and just kind of like little strands of hair or whatever. But yes,
no, it felt like tongues. They were just, and the thing that they were like putting their tongues up in the air and on things. It was like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so ultimately, like at its core, it ends up kind of becoming this like very eco-centric kind of narrative and stuff, which is a cool vibe. We definitely kind of ended up walking away at the end of like, okay, well then how did the Pando or whatever was it? Was that
Pando,
what it was?
yeah.
Yeah. How did that like get introduced into this ecosystem?
Yeah, because it doesn't match anything else there.
Yeah.
Which makes it like, was it a foreign body? Like, there's a lot more questions left on there than answered when it comes to Pando and like its origin point. I don't know if that was like going to be like their sequel idea, but it doesn't, like, we're likely never going to get that. So.
Yeah, and like ultimately, like especially just given like, oh, the whole thing is like a body. It's like, okay, that was just a disease or like a an infection that like it was the movie's COVID-19 basically.
Yeah.
that lands on the thing, gets fostered because nobody wears masks and grows.
Well, nobody has faces, so.
Well, I mean all of the
people,
the people like the clades,
but
their whole society.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it that was interesting is like, oh, they were using this this parasite to like power everything. But what I really thought was awesome was it took the actual kind of like response of like, well, what are we supposed to do? Go back to horse and buggy?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, if it's killing the thing you're living on, yeah, you go back to horse and buggy. And I'm like, that is a profound message to be putting out there that I have a lot of respect for. That I think if this movie had been seen by more people, would probably be lambasting it because of it.
Of course,
on the conservative end of things.
I mean, that's the thing. Like this movie, much like a lot of the movies that the conservatives targeted last year, would have been a prime conservative target.
Oh yeah,
but nobody watched the movie, so they didn't know to go out and attack it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like even the end of the movie, like basically Panda was like a shortcut to an an industrial revolution, because the end of the movie they do have like the airship still working, and they have like they find a new source of power and they light up the town square or whatever.
Yep.
So like they find wind turbines or whatever, like they figure out how to create electricity that is not just an electric plant.
Yep.
So it would be great if the world got on board with that, but sadly this is very much going to be like, if anything, I think it might fall under the vein of like a Treasure Planet or an Atlantis. It is going to be like those like, it's not a bad movie, really, by any stretch. It's fine. But it definitely doesn't reach the highs that Disney is so often known for. So it will kind of be like in that lower tier of Disney stuff, I imagine.
This is going to be that one person you know's favorite Disney film, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that movie came out. Like, oh yeah, but it's like some people are going to like latch onto this pretty hard. Like there are some people who will never forget Treasure Planet.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of those people. They are ravenous about Treasure Planet, and I can imagine seeing kids growing up with this movie feeling the same way.
Yeah, yeah. It was like, I think it also helped just for us, like, going in with such low expectations, given the state of how the movie was received and stuff. So like, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, this isn't bad. This is fine. This is a fine movie. As opposed to like, if we seen it in theaters expecting more or something like that, it would have been like, oh okay, yeah, this isn't great. But at the same time, like, I mean, one of my most hated Disney movies in recent years was the quote unquote live action Lion King, that is fully animated. So I don't know why it's called live action.
I haven't seen it. So.
But it is like the epitome. I mean, this and Pinocchio last year are like the epitome of, they just remade the movie in a more modern animation style, and in many cases, like, made those choices made the movie so much worse. Like The Lion King in particular, because they all went like photorealistic for the animals, they don't have the same character that the 2D animated versions of the characters have. So they just it's just like and also so many of them are animals that don't speak. So like, watching John Oliver's Zazu talk in that movie, it's like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look good. And so like, I definitely don't hate this movie as much as I hate that. But it very much is just like, it's a movie that is there. I appreciate that it is, it has something to say. It has a point of view that's really cool. But I don't think Disney went as far with it as could, and they certainly didn't get behind it as much as they could have. So much so that it was very weird being at Disneyland and had like, walking by in Tomorrowland, they had like a Strange World like photo opportunity kind of thing where you could go, like, kids could go stand by the cutouts, and just watching so many kids be like, what is that? Because they didn't know. And this was a week and a half after the movie had been out. It was just like, oh, poor, like, I feel bad for whoever worked on like Strange World activations and stuff like that, that still had to support the movie, even though the company as a whole was not really getting behind it.
It sucks. It's sad to see, because this really could have been I don't know. I don't think it would have been like that one of those Disney greats, but I do think that it deserved more than it got, surely.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it's especially one that, like, throw a few songs in there, and that could have really like helped liven up the film and add to the pacing and stuff like that, and make it feel like more of a Disney film than this, which it was. I mean, they have like the very pulpy kind of like Clades theme at the beginning or whatever, and then the final it's the last song in the credits that you were like, are you rewatching the movie?
Yeah.
I was like, no. But yeah, I think it just didn't have that like extra thing that makes a real good Disney movie stand out, I think. Any favorite moments that you want to give some shout outs to or give some love to?
The Clades playing the board game was great.
Mm-hmm.
Just, if you've been a kid trying to explain a board game to an adult, they just don't get it. And I've been there, and it hurts.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of like, I really love Searcher's character. In that he is like a cringy, like he's a really good dad, but he's super cringy, and I love it. Like, I think at one point at the end of the film, he has a cup that says "Most Okay Dad."
Pretty good dad.
Pretty good dad.
Based off of what Ethan says earlier. Hey, yeah, you're a pretty good dad. And then he's like,
yeah.
You hear that? My son says I'm an amazing dad. Yeah. I said pretty good, yeah. He's very much like the supportive father, but then like in trying to be that supportive father, obviously the movie plays with the idea of like he's still like traumatized by his own father, and so he ends up kind of like repeating a lot. Like it does continue the Disney theme in recent years of generational trauma is the real bad guy of movies,
right? 100%. Yeah.
I was definitely thinking that when we had like the whole "I'm your legacy. I tried to build a legacy you could be proud of" kind of thing. It was very much Turning Red or Encanto, to a lesser extent Raya.
There's that great anytime where Searcher has like a weird vision of Ethan growing a mustache all of a sudden and talking like his grandfather kills me. Just like kills me every time that happened. I think the best part about this film is like it doesn't really like replay bits too often. Like things are pretty good about being fresh. Nothing's ever driven to the ground. Shout out to Splat for just being like, first off, not the homie, then following it up with being the homie.
Yeah.
Him orchestrating the passage through the burning sea was great. Splat was awesome. Meridian was just like straight up like the like this person plays support type of a character.
She's the Lucio or whatever.
Yeah, she is 100% just like she knows, like even if she knows what the answer is supposed to be, she's still gonna let people get there. But also her tormenting what's her name, the president, Callista. Her tormenting her on the ship to get her to like basically calm the fuck down and listen to reason was fantastic. She is just absolutely wonderful. It's just really just a great film on its own, just being like a good film, like a good story, good characters, good like moments of dialogue and action. Shout out to Jaeger Clade's flamethrower that he made out of like a sack and his pickaxe, like his pickaxes, and I'm like, or like his climbing picks.
Yeah.
Like, didn't even realize he made it out of that until he like busts it up at the end, and it turns out that's what it is, and it's just like absolutely like what an absolute like incredible, like really smart, interesting designs. The airship was phenomenal. Just everything about it was just super cool.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of fun in, and there were definitely moments of this that I think in part because giant sea turtle, they were very much like Avatar and Legend of Korra vibes in terms of the technology of like, okay, this is a generation or a universe that basically had a boom in technology in 25 years time is what we kind of see. And so we get to see like, you know, how that played out with a plane for crop dusting and stuff like that, or how we see that in the city. We see like gas things, all of this fueled by like seed pods, basically, electrically charged seed pods. And so there's a lot of cool visuals and cool design choices behind this. And I think what I found myself thinking about at the end of the day was like, much like Lost in Space, I think this would have worked cooler as a series, you know, or like even like it was past my time, but like a Wild Thornberrys kind of like a family going on adventure down in the inner space and finding all these things, like an episode dedicated to each of those things, building to an arc of like what's really going on, may have been like a better option for this story. That at times does feel like a little rushed in terms of like, okay, like we've gone through the lungs, we've gone through the stomach, now we're at the heart. I think there could have been more. I think that would have also given like the characters and their relationships more time to flesh out a little bit as well, because a lot of it is very surface level. Especially we do get like, you know, Ethan with his friends at the beginning, and then just nothing from them. Even the boyfriend barely makes an appearance at the end. And so yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen just more of these, but not in a movie form. I didn't want this to be another half hour. I would have liked to have seen like smaller stories paced out, I think. But yeah, still a fun time overall. Trying to think if there were any other shout outs or favorite moments I had to give some love to. But no, Splat's a lot of fun. I did like the like the Reapers and the eventual just realization of like, oh yeah, those are your, the white blood cells kind of thing.
Yep.
And fighting off the invading forces. Like the turning point and realization of like they're within a living organism was very well done, I think. And just a fun science forward kind of story to it. In a very fun, cool, engaging, and visually stimulating way. So, yeah, shout out to Strange World, even if it's definitely one I'm probably not going to think on too much moving forward, but hopefully it does find that like kind of cult hit and fandom, and doesn't go down in history as like the one of the worst Disney things, because there are definitely worse things that Disney has put out. So let's dive into the report card, where we grade from A+ to F. What do you want to give Strange World here, Cameron?
I think Strange World's a B.
Okay.
I think that it's better than average. It's not a C. I don't think it's C tier. But I also don't think like it's not even on the precipice of being B- at this point. It's just it's a solid B movie. Like there's nothing spectacular about it, but at the same time there's nothing terrible about it. It's a good Disney film. It ranks up there. It's fine.
Okay, I can get behind that. Yeah, I can give it a B too. I was thinking maybe in the C territory, but yeah, it's better than average. It's on the Disney scale that is on a curve. It's probably down more in the C territory, but like compared to any number of other things coming out, yeah, certainly above and beyond most. So. Yeah, shout outs to that. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. You have Encanto. You have Ralph Breaks the Internet, Zootopia, Big Hero 6, Treasure Planet, Atlantis the Lost Empire, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Frozen 2. Another kind of who's who of remember those movies. Every time I see it, I do think we should do an Atlantis episode, because that's definitely one like I remember watching and really enjoying it, and then never revisited or never go back to, because it was very much in that like I was probably going into high school, and so it was probably like dipping out of Disney that era, because like I've never seen Brother Bear, I've never seen Treasure Planet myself, so that's that era of Disney where I was too cool for Disney because teen angst, sure. And look at me now, adult fan of Disney, strong. Anyway, extracurriculars. I probably know the answer to this. Did you watch anything else on Disney Plus this week, Cameron?
No, we literally just watched this last night.
Yeah, we watched this a couple nights ago.
Yeah, 2 nights ago.
A couple nights ago.
Yeah.
I kept meaning to circle back to the Bad Batch season 2. And then also I meant to go back and check out our topic from last week, the National Treasure latest episode. Didn't get around to that. Instead, you and I went and watched Nevermore over on Dropout, the latest Dimension 20. So yeah, did not watch anything else on Disney Plus this week. But hey, there's still a few days to go. That's going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cameron, for joining me to discuss this. We'll try and figure out a smoother way to do the tech sometime in the future. Who knows what that's going to look like, but hopefully this came out okay and did not suck. Who knows? We will find out when I go back and listen to the edit. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
You know what? I do want to give a massive shout out to Atlantis. I think it does rank up there as being like a much better film than people give it credit for. If for me, it was much more of like my family had stopped buying Disney films at that point. Mm-hmm. So, when it comes to it, I think I would love to do an Atlantis episode sometime.
Cool. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will shout out, things that we actually do.
Well, that's what the shout outs are for.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, it's been a while.
I guess, it has been for you. We do this, we've been doing this 150 some, I think there's 150 I think this is 156 episode of that D Plus show.
That's fair.
3 years. Shout outs typically where we shout out our own other things.
Yeah, that's right. A Game of the Year stuff is coming up.
Yeah, Game of the Year stuff is coming up. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. My shout out will be our Let's Plays. For end of the year, I did basically daily Let's Plays in the lead up to it. Now that we're in 2023, I've been falling back to just Tuesday, Thursday stuff, so you can go find some of my adventures in Skyrim nearing the end of the main campaign. So you've got that to look forward to. If you liked what you heard, once again, please like, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Subscribe if I didn't say that one. Ring notification bells on YouTube. All that goodies. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.